Hello and welcome to the East Lampeter Township Public Meeting. All participants are now informed that this meeting is being recorded. This meeting is also being offered virtually utilizing Zoom, which is a cloud-based platform for remote video and audio conferencing. The Zoom application is free to the public. The general public is therefore able to join the meeting by connection through the internet or by calling in by phone. The public is also able to observe the meeting on the Township's YouTube channel. Please continue to check the Township website calendar for any updates related to these public meetings. Agendas for these public meetings will also be available on the Township's website. Please be reminded that this meeting is being video and audio recorded and will be posted to the Township's YouTube channel for viewing. The meeting will now proceed with the chairman calling the meeting to order and identifying all other members present in the meeting room and those joining the meeting via Zoom. The chairman will then confirm those members joining by Zoom can be heard.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to call the meeting of the East Lampeter Township Emergency Services meeting to order. If you could all please rise and we will pledge allegiance to our flag. I guess the first order of business is that we will need to select a temporary chair for our meeting. Do you have any nominations for temporary chair? Chair, Eric. So please take over, and what we have to do, I guess, is we have to elect a chairman, a vice chairman, and a secretary. We need to introduce first, yeah. So if we can do that first, we'll start with Melanie, please. Greg.
Eric Bergstrom, citizen, Lafayette.
Jim Martin, citizen, Burton Hand.
Steve Gribble, Chief Rungs Fire Company.
Clark Graham, citizen, East Lampeter Township.
Okay, we have our supervisor, please.
Mike Thornton.
Okay, and who else do we have there that's on? Susan, right? Yes, Susan.
Yes, Susan Yoder, East Lampeter Township Citizen Rep.
Did we miss anyone? I think we have well, also on the Zoom, we have Chad Engler, Sue, and Brett Fosnack, right?
I need to capture the names of the attendees. I have Nate Church and the other two gentlemen.
Okay, we'll do that. So Tara and Hutch from Township, Donnie Boyer from Bird in Hand, and if you gentlemen can stand and tell us what your names are, please. Yep. Okay, we have everyone now. Claire, we didn't introduce you, did we?
Yeah.
Oh, we did? Okay.
Okay, so I guess we're going to be electing chairman, vice chairman. I have any nominations from the floor for chairman?
I nominate Jim Martin.
Good. Need a second? Any seconds for Jim Martin?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any other nominations? Okay, I guess all in favor say aye.
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 Okay, Jim, you are the chair. want to take the rest of the lecture?
I'll take the rest then. Now to vice chair. Your nomination for vice chair, please.
I'll nominate Eric Bergson.
So second to the nomination of Eric Ferguson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and for secretary. Now, nomination for secretary.
I do not wish to fill that position, that role any longer.
We have any nominations. Certainly need to figure out how to fill that position. I guess what we need to do maybe is ask from the floor here if there's anyone that would be, that is a alternate that would be interested. Responses. Well, that's interesting.
I'd nominate Jeff Hatfield, accept it or not, but.
Jeff, will you take secretary of the committee? I think it was sprung on all of us.
Jeff's not really a member of the committee or an alternate.
Okay. All right.
You're taking this part, this, right?
I am taking next.
So we have
All right. So we have some time between now and then when we'll have to get together with yeah, Eric and Township. Hutch and Tara will get with you, four of us, and try to figure this out. Are you interested, Mel? You're not? All right. How about anyone on Zoom up there that might be interested in being the secretary of our committee? A lot of silence there. Susan, are you interested? Would you consider taking it?
I would entertain discussion. How about that?
Okay.
Need to know what is entailed.
We will be in contact with you in the next week or so. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Dave, thanks for continuing for this meeting. Okay. Thank you. All right. All right. So then we'll continue. We need approval of the 18 November meeting minutes. Are there any corrections or additions that need to be made? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion to accept.
Motion second. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, very good. We'll move then on to old business. Report from the fire apparatus replacement committees, hand in hand.
Yes, so give you a little bit of an update there. Our officers have been discussing, had a meeting to discuss a little bit our current mix of apparatus before we started our engine replacement committee. And they came back, recommended to the board that we appoint a committee to pursue the purchase of an engine, which is what we anticipated. So that committee will probably be appointed here between now and our next meeting. They'll officially be appointed up and running. But from what we're hearing, it looks like apparatus is out 1.5 to 2 years. So I have a feeling we're going to be slipping on our schedule there. I think we're on the replacement schedule for 2013, and it's going to be at least 2014. We're looking at preliminarily here, probably end of 2014, maybe even the beginning of 2015, because of the lead times.
You jump ahead 10 years.
Yeah. I'm sorry, yeah. So, yeah, exactly. So anyway, yeah, 2024, 2025. So, yeah, we'll keep you updated, but we're going to move forward. But given the lead times right now, it is probably going to be pushed back somewhat. Good news is our current engine is still in really good shape, running well, and so we don't feel a sense of urgency necessarily. We don't anticipate that being a problem on our end. So that's
Okay. Okay, very good. Thank you, Paul. Then we'll move to the discussion of continuing discussions of human resources. And I would like, again, as I did last meeting, if there is no objection, I'd like to continue on to the new business. And then after the new business is completed, because we do have 4 presentations, I believe, about human resources from each of the individual fire companies. And I'd like to be able to spend some time on that as well. So any objection to us doing that? Okay. All right. New business, the 2022 calendar. Hutch has given us the calendar. Did you?
Yeah, this is something that we've produced every year annually. It's pretty much the same as the way things have been in prior years. But, wanted to make sure that the committee went over it, and, if there are things that need to be changed or added, that they should be changed so that we know what to expect for the remainder of the year.
Okay. I guess we will wait for final approval of this committee for this year for the township supervisors. I understand the calendar. Is that correct?
I didn't understand your question.
The added and changes to the committee, they will be addressed at the next supervisors meeting.
The committee membership?
Yes.
Everybody who's here now has been appointed.
Okay.
Mr. Englert has been nominated by Whitmer Fire Company to be their citizen rep, but we just learned of that. So the board hasn't been able to take action on his appointment.
Okay, very good. Very good. Okay. All right. That's the calendar, the fire company activity list.
The activity list, again, something we do each year. We probably should have done this back in December to get it done a little earlier in the year, but the sole purpose of this is to make sure we've got things listed so that everything's covered for workers' comp purposes. So we have this as an approved list of the activities of the fire companies, so that if there are, hopefully there aren't, but if there are any injuries, that the insurance company doesn't raise a fuss, because it's whatever happened, it happened during one of those activities. So that's the purpose of it.
Okay. Very good. Yes, Dave.
We should make a motion and approve these, I believe. Is that correct?
That would be helpful, yes.
Okay.
I will make a
Recommend approval by the Board of Supervisors.
I would like to make a motion to recommend approval by the Board of Supervisors, both the approved activities list and the funding calendar.
Do I have a second? Greg, okay, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thanks, Dave, for keeping me straight.
Yeah, can I ask you a second? Greg Sherman.
Okay. Let me poll the fire companies at this time and the township and EMC as well. We'll go through that. So if we could start with Burnham, please.
Yeah, I don't think I have a whole lot. Heard about our apparatus committee coming up here. We're wrapping up the year, had our elections the last meeting, not a whole lot of changes there to really report. So yeah, it's been just a little bit of a slower time of year for us. I don't have a whole lot. Chief, do you have anything to report?
Okay, very good. Ross?
We had our elections. The only thing that changed, Dave Gribble is now president, Nate Church is vice president. All the line officers stayed the same. Other than that, I have nothing else right now.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Lafayette?
Line officers, we had 2 changes. We had 1 promotion and 1 new line officer. That would be Brett Fosnut. As far as the administrative side, no changes there. Our new duty officer vehicle, that should be complete by the end of this month. And we have 2 applications from township staff, and we are currently vetting those. They're just moving through the approval process.
Okay.
8 times staff in the system.
Good. Okay, Whitman, please. Great.
Added TV line officer for lieutenants, Indian officers, okay. Trish side for the new president, Chris Miller. The other thing, as far as an activity that we're going to be having, got our officers coming up February 12th.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Emergency management?
It's on top, Jeff. Yep, it's on.
First, I want to say thank you to those who reached out to me recently, condolences and cards and stuff of the mother's passing. I want to reach out to someone who's contacted me, so I appreciate it. The other month, I did turn in our report for Brett and I regards to the tropical depression Ida report. I guess did receive that. I didn't receive any feedback to comments or anything, so I assumed that everything was okay with that. The other thing is monthly reports. A couple people said to me, well, you know, your monthly reports seem to be the same thing all the time. Well, that's because we are doing the same thing every month. And I want to categorize what we're doing. So you're going to see the same activity in there. So FEMA also appreciates a copy of the report, which we give them. And they said, you know, you're the only township that turns in a report for what's going on in the township. Now, this gives me one thing I want to bring up. Because it does bother me. I was appointed this township as emergency management coordinator. I take this job very seriously, like any other jobs that I have. And what upsets me, and I know it upsets Brett too, is we presented this emergency operation. We're almost going to be a year again. This thing has been set up. I did make some changes in regards to the assistant township manager. We haven't heard anything back. What is the holdup? What's going on? I know it's in the township's hands, the secretary's and stuff. But as emergency management coordinator, I need to keep up to date with what's going on with that plan. Because disaster hits this township, they're going to ask me what's going on. Challenge. So I take my responsibility seriously. I'm not here to do any blaming or anything, but I need, as emergency management coordinator, I take things seriously. And I support the fire companies that come out handle calls with them, so forth. And we got to have a plan of action, something that's the thing. Hopefully, knock on wood, nothing seriously has happened. But there's always that time. There's stuff going on in this world right now. Look at the synagogues. Heaven forbid if you ever have anything like that happen. Or any catastrophe. We need to be ready. We need more support from the township. Emergency management. I just don't want to be a name.
Yeah, Jeff's criticism is fair. We've been, it's been on my desk since Jeff had handed it in. So I'm the one that's been the holdup on that. I do owe Jeff an apology for that, but we will get it done, and we'll get it in front of the Board of Supervisors to get it done.
Okay.
Also on this community contact information. We have I don't have that. Needs to be corrected. But again, I'm not here to criticize anybody, but I just want to say, I take my responsibility seriously. And I'm like, if somebody gives me something to do, I'm on it. The way I am. Feedback.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. Okay.
I have a question. Do all the fire companies get a copy of that report? Or do they all have that? Do they all have that right now?
Everybody, give me a copy of the USC.
The one that Ralph is talking.
Jeff, can you stand up and talk on the microphone, please?
Do all the fire companies have copies of that?
Yes.
Right now.
The committee here.
Yeah.
Emergency Services Committee. And there's members from the fire department here. They did receive a copy of that. And they did review it. And they did approve it. But then we had changes there. In the township level, we have now had Tara. So if you put Tara into the so I did change that. It put Tara in there. So I don't know what else what's going on. I mean, with the plan.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Jeff. Hutch says he'll take care of it. Okay. Moving right along to township managers, please.
Sure, thank you. Again, appreciate everybody's efforts in getting spill control reports into us. It really helps with our MS4 effort, so we appreciate the communication. If there are any updates to driver's lists or vehicle lists for fuel cards, please let us know. I did get some receipts tonight. We appreciate that too. So if there are any more, get those in when you can. Charlie Thomas, our Public Works Director, just wanted me to remind the fire companies that we do have radios that are on the county system. So if there is a winter event where you guys need some assistance from Public Works, feel free to reach out to them on the radios. They'll respond. The only other thing I was going to say was, the COVID at-home tests are available through federal government via USPS. So we'd encourage everybody to order them and get them for your own use at home. We've had some COVID impact here with the township. I'm sure you guys have all seen it as well. So that's really all I had. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Tara, do you have anything? Okay. And now from our township supervisor, Mike, do you have anything for us?
No, just looking forward to working with you and in our community and learning more about the issues that are there. I appreciate the documents I received from the township staff and look forward to working with you all.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. All right. I think what I'd like to do is hold the citizen comments to the end. I'm sorry, the the guest comments at the end, but I do want to hear the citizens. So do you have any comments? I have. Eric, do you have any? Susan, do you have any comments?
Nothing to share. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, then I'd like to return to our discussion of HR issues, which during the last meeting, we decided that is what is the most pressing issue that this committee should look at and to see if there is some way that we can assist the fire companies with their HR issues. And in light of the discussions we had last meeting, I felt that it was really important for all the committee to understand what each individual fire company's HR issues are and how they are addressing them specifically. And so I sent an email to all the fire companies and to the committee members asking them to please put together a short 10 or 15-minute presentation of the issues surrounding HR so we can kind of focus and funnel our discussions. We've done a lot of general discussing of issues over the past, I don't know how many years, and there always seems to be, you know, we're hopping along and hopping along. And so it's time, as we heard last meeting, that we got to focus and figure out what it is we can do to help shore up the volunteer force within the township. So there were 4 questions that I asked each fire company to address. And those 4 questions are: what specifically is the most pressing HR concern as it affects your fire company? Second is describe the specifics of your current plans to resolve this problem. Third, do you expect that your company can resolve this problem on your own, or do you anticipate needing assistance from ESC and or the township? Is there an expectation? The fourth, is there an expectation that ESC and or the township should help to solve the problem? And what specifically are you asking help with in resolving them based on what your plans are? And then share some specific successes you've experienced from your current plan. And then I would like to hold questions of each fire company's presentation so that we can move the discussion along, and then we'll have a short discussion period. And then after that discussion, I think that it's necessary for us to consider a way to find a path forward in reviewing and understanding and addressing what each of the fire companies have presented to us. We're not going to solve this in one night's discussion. We know that. This is going to be a long-term discussion. We really need to be honest with ourselves and with the way we approach this. The goal is to improve the conditions of the volunteer force in East Lampeter Township. So with that, I'd like to start, and we'll just go down alphabetically. We'll start with Birmingham, please.
Okay. Jim, I do have some handouts I can pass around. I have a one-page report here, summary kind of what, and I apologize, I just basically out it here in the last few days. I think there's some here for the audience too, if they want to. If you guys want a copy, I don't, it's entirely up to you, but I have copies here if you want to pass them out. I'm going to just go down over this, kind of help me give a little bit of a summary of where we're at and specifically address your, I think, 5 questions that you asked. So number one, what specifically is the most pressing HR concern as affects your fire company? Yeah, it's just front, I'm sorry, it's one page front and back. So our most pressing concern at Bird in Hand is probably finding another 2 to 3 firefighters and engineers for daytime calls. That's probably where the area that we're having the most challenge with right now. I think our crews are decent, but we could always use some more people there in daytime. Of all the running times for emergency calls, that is definitely the toughest for us to find. Evenings, weekends doesn't seem to be as big of a problem. So I would say that's our number 1 priority. Describe the specifics of your current plans to resolve this problem. Number 2, so we did form a human resources committee about 2 years ago, and they're focused on 3 areas of human resources. We kind of broke it into 3 separate areas. We talked about the challenge here over the last few years, and before we appointed the committee, our thought was it's kind of a 3-step process. One was to get the right quantity of enough people, enough bodies in the door to be effective. So that's where we kind of felt recruitment and retention was to address that. The second one was, once we have the people, they don't do us any good if they don't know what they're doing or how to conduct themselves on the fairground and handling the equipment and all that. So that's where the skills and knowledge part came in, which is another way of saying training, but it goes further than just the training. Some of it is, again, an educational part of it, and then there's the hands-on part, working with the other people. So that's the second part. And then the third part, once we have enough people and they know what they're doing, there's still a third part, and that is if they don't show up when we need them, then it still doesn't work. So we need enough people with the skills that they need to show up when we really need them. And so we've kind of broken this committee into 3 kind of subcommittees, and they're all working on different phases of the problem. They're all kind of having to work together. The first part of it that we did was the skills and knowledge of training program. We kicked that off first. I've been talking about that a little bit, I think, over the last the last 6 months or so. We have a firefighter training program and then also an engineer program where we've laid out all of the trainings that we feel the members need. We have about a 2-year schedule that fits into twice a month. So 2 years at twice a month. You kind of do the math there. That's about 48 trainings that we have, 48 different trainings covering different areas, everything from responding to a call, putting on turnout gear, to interior search and rescue, to tanker operations, to fire police, again, engineer training, all those types of things. So we've designed that to try to, when we do get the people to get them the skills they need, and I can talk more about some of these other areas. I need to keep moving on, but organization response is basically we have a large organizational chart of our whole organization that covers everything from administrative, tactical, firefighting, and then financial, where it lays out all the different positions and responsibilities. And then another part of that organization response is we've been experimenting over the last 2 years with, we're calling a duty crew. I know in the fire service, it's probably not technically a duty crew, but we have people that are currently staffing or on call basically throughout the week, evenings and daytime. We're not doing it weekends because we usually have pretty good response there without that. But during the day right now, from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. and then again from starting at 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. we have dedicated crews that are signed up to cover that. And what it does is a number of things that allows them to take some of the burden off of it. Just as an example, if we get a call at 2 o'clock in the morning, tomorrow morning, and it's an automatic alarm, which they tend to be a lesser importance, at least in the firefighter mind, because most of the time they're false alarms. If we have 8 officers and 10 engineers, we don't really see the sense in all 18 of them. That's not kind of the firefighters getting out of bed at 2 o'clock in the morning, going out on a cold night for an automatic alarm. So this is where these duty crews come in. We have people that know are going to respond. And then the rest of them can choose to respond if they want. They don't need to respond. So it breaks up the workload, but it also kind of ensures that we get people out. And again, I could go on about that for a while, but these are some of the things that we're doing to try to address some of these HR challenges. So in addition to this, more importantly, leadership of our company is committed to building a culture that attracts and retains volunteers. We believe it is impossible to overstate the impact that culture has on the success or failure of the volunteer fire service. What do we mean by good culture? These are things we're trying to do. Not saying we're doing them all, but we're at least aware of them, and we are trying to do these because we do feel like this is probably the most important part of our and probably any recruitment and retention program, to get good people and keep them. And that is trying to have a welcoming attitude towards new members, having a clean, respectful, family-friendly environment around the station, showing appreciation and providing encouragement to our volunteers, promoting a positive can-do attitude with an emphasis on building a winning team, allowing members to serve as much or as little as their personal situations allow without denigrating them if they only have a limited amount of time to serve. That may sound crazy, but that happens in the fire service, believe it or not. People are all across the spectrum in terms of how much time they're willing and able to give. And so we're trying to, again, take what they're willing to give us and make them feel comfortable with that in hopes that they'll continue to do it for a longer time and grow into taking more responsibility over time. Designing programs for emergency responses and trainings that take our members' time into consideration and recognize the value of each member's time. Being open to and encouraging new ideas on how to improve our organization. And finally, creating a sense of meaning and purpose by emphasizing the community service aspect of the fire service rather than the individual achievement aspect. We feel like that makes a big difference. Again, trying to build that culture that is something that is enjoyable and purposeful for them when they come out and do serve. So that's some of the things that we're trying to do. Number 3, do you expect that your company can resolve this HR problem on your own, or do you anticipate needing assistance from the ESC and or the township? And they're based on the success of our Human Resources Committee we've been having. We fully expect to be able to meet all of our needs for human resources for the foreseeable future. At this point, we feel like we're in a pretty strong position. Again, we're always looking for more people. We're going to continue to work that hard, just like we have with our finances. We can never get enough, but we do feel like we're getting out on calls, and we think that we're in a pretty good position moving forward. So number 4, if there's an expectation that the ESC and or the township should help, if there is an expectation to help solve the problem, what specifically are you asking them to do? So in our case right now, we're really not asking for any additional help other than, again, to continue to support us the way they have been, but we're not really asking for anything different at this time. And then number 5, share specific successes you've experienced from your current plan. And this is kind of hard because, again, we feel like a lot of the success we've had is by people coming out and the camaraderie, again, the sense of community, the people knowing each other. It's hard to quantify that. And so it's really hard to say the specific thing that has led to a specific person coming out. But I would say a few of the things. One would be we've been able to, I talked about the duty crew program. We've been able to staff an on-call duty crew of volunteers at all times of the week. That's been, I think, a pretty important breakthrough for us the last couple of years. And again, these programs, we're continuing to work and tweak them, change them, improve them. But we've had initially a lot of positive feedback on that. And I'll give you just an example, and I hope I'm not running over my time here, but just one example, again, especially for the citizens reps, so they can kind of understand a little bit what we're trying to do with that is the example I gave about a call at 2 o'clock in the morning. We have several engineers, Tim Horner, who most of you know, lives right across the street, and we have a couple others that are not that far from our station. And what's happened in the past is we get a call, they respond, they're always going to beat the other engineers to the station, just because of geographically, they're by far the closest physically to the station. So what can happen is we recruit new engineers into our company. They come out, they do all the training, they're good to go, checked out to drive the rig. What happens is we get 150 calls last year, so we get about 3 calls a week. So let's say for the next month, we get a dozen calls, and they come out, and every single time the other guys beat them, they take the truck and they show up, and it's like, that was nice, but what was the point, really? So then what happens, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, what happens is they tend to kind of go, oh, these guys really don't need me, and you don't see them again. And so, but then what happens is when we lose one or two of those key people down the road because they move, you know, they get older and they don't want to run, or they get sick, or they go on vacation, you don't have the depth there to cover that. And so with this program, we're by doing this duty crew staffing, now what we have is that next kind of ring of people out, and they're really usually only maybe 30 seconds further away, but it's far enough that, again, we're not going to beat the closer ones. So now, since we have usually like a different engineer on every night, when we get a call now, we get more people to be able to run calls. And even that, we're kind of structuring that in a way that, and again, this is a work in progress, but we're structuring that in a way that if we have, there's certain nature codes of fire calls. If we have a call for a building fire in our first due area, we're not going to wait the extra 30 seconds for that person to come in. But that happens so infrequently that 90% of our calls, 80% of our calls are things like, you know, assisting another company, automatic fire alarm, you name it, a lot of, you know, case investigation, whatever. So we're trying to find that balance of, we still want to be there as soon as we possibly can, but in order to be able to do that over the long run, we have to come up with more creative ways to get more people involved. So that's one of the things that we're doing, and we think is working for us. Another one is our engineer training program. I've talked about this before. We've done that over the past year now. We have added an additional 4 active engineers from that, and that is more than we've ever been able to add in a year's time. So there's an example where, again, we're trying to be proactive with it, and we think it's paying off for us. And then on the administrative fundraising side, we have over 600, and that's a guesstimate, but I think that's actually probably on the conservative side, unique individuals who volunteer their time each year to help support our fundraising efforts. And again, you know, we feel like a huge part of that is the sense of community, the camaraderie, the being in it to help each other, help your neighbors, that type of thing. When they come out and help, if they're in a fun environment, in a creative environment around other people that are working well with them, they tend to come back, they enjoy it, they come back. I've seen it, and I've been with the fire company for 30 years now, and I've seen it in our own fire company where we have these, you have times when the leadership of the company or whoever doesn't take that seriously, and you have some conflict, especially in the leadership, and that is toxic to the volunteer, you know, to recruiting and retaining members, because they come out and they don't want to be a part of that. They do not want to be part of. It's hard enough to get people out and give up their time and all that, and when they enjoy it, they tend to come back. When they don't enjoy it, then you lose it. So that's one of the reasons that we're, again, very focused on trying to make sure that we're creating an environment where they enjoy coming out and helping. So, Don, anything you want to add to that? Anything I'm missing? That's basically, I think, I don't know where I'm at in my 10 to 15 minutes, but that's basically where we're at. And I don't know whether to take questions at the end or.
Yeah, we'll take some questions at the end. So I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation, Paul. And Don will take questions in at the end. Okay. So Lafayette, can we move to you, please? And Dave?
Sure, I'm going to defer to Jason because he drafted this.
Jason,
He
okay.
and I worked together on it, but I don't want to steal his thunder.
It's okay.
Thanks, Jason.
Yep. Part of what we did when we got this assignment, we actually went back to our board of directors and our line officers and posed these same 5 questions for their feedback, just to get a full consensus of kind of where we're at, what they think the thought process is behind us as well. And generally speaking, a lot of it was very consistent. I think it's no secret our number 1 issue is daytime staffing, 6 a.m. to roughly 3-4 p.m. When we do have daytime staffing, the next issue is the qualification of those people. Pretty often we run out of there with 3, maybe 4 guys. 2 of them are 65 years and older. One of them's probably a junior or very little amount of experience. This leaves us maybe 1 good, solid, adequate firefighter. So while we don't fail responses, generally speaking, the quality of that response certainly is an issue, not to mention just the fact of having guys to get on the rig and get out the door. And that's certainly no secret to where we're at. Looking at it, administratively, unfortunately, it's good and bad, but we do have a lot of board members who are also essentially operational members as well. So they're pulling double duty. So I think right now, roughly 7 of our 9, or actually be 8 technically, 6 of our 8 board members are on the fire side and the admin side in elected positions with a lot of responsibilities. Beyond that, where do we, how do we see that affecting things? I think we'd be a little remiss here not to acknowledge just some national trends. And that is obviously volunteerism is declining. That's no secret. We see the articles all the time. Part of our concern and issue over the years has been our transient population within our area. We have a lot of rentals. And so what that results in is we get a member in the door, we get them trained, they're up, they're running, and 4 or 5 years later, they have a life change, they get married, they move out of the area for a job, and we're back at square one with that. So that's kind of been just the nature of our housing. When we look at our cross-section of our members, a lot more rent than own property in the township. So that is certainly, obviously rental tends to be more transient. Certainly an issue for us. Obviously with anything volunteerism, people want to do it on their own terms, and we're fighting for, their spare time with all the other activities that they're involved in. Another item that's been a little bit of a change for us over the last number of years is we do not have the amount of local businesses, and I say local meaning locally owned. Okay, we have a lot of franchise business, a lot of businesses with ownership that is not from this area and not familiar with the fact even that it's volunteer. And when we have the conversations with these business owners, there's not a lot of, well, okay, all right, you're volunteer, so what? So that's something we're fighting, with that, and the fact that these businesses, and a lot of them in our first due, are not rooted in our first due. So therefore, they're not oftentimes willing to allow people to leave during work hours. We were fortunate enough for a number of years, a lot of you guys may remember Ron Knoll, Bobby Sawyer, Rick Miller, and a handful of other guys who owned businesses and were local. Those guys, have gotten up there in age, they've moved on from the fire service, and there's no new business owners coming in the door that are willing to support in that kind of capacity. Obviously, fiscal donations for the volunteer fire service in general have been declining. And of course, there's always the increased regulatory training and liability requirements and demands. So moving on to number 2 there for Jim's questions there, describe our current plans. So kind of broke this down into both recruitment and retention because they are 2 separate issues and require kind of 2 separate approaches. Certainly we look at recruitment, it is definitely harder to recruit new people than it is to retain the people you have. And so with the retention side of that, we're trying to focus on ultimately, how can we get these people in the door? Once they're in the door, how do we keep them? So on the retention side, it's a lot less costly. It's a lot less time wrapped up in trying to keep them there. So what we've done specifically when we talk about recruitment, so these are things that are actually actively in progress with our fire company. And that is, we do have a very small live-in program that started. We're trying to comprise that of 2 daytime availability members and 2 nighttime availability members. We obviously have had our duty crew program in effect now for 3 or 4 years. That's actually been a great asset because those guys who are available during the week gives them the opportunity to have the weekend off at times, so to speak. We are partnering with Educational Institutes, School District of Lancaster, Stevens Tech, trying to work on recruitment from that aspect. We do have our cadet camp, which obviously doesn't benefit us now. We are planning to do that again for the second time this next year. I had a lot of great feedback, both from community relations aspect and also did gain a couple of associate members off of that event. So that was a great opportunity there. We do have a recruitment retention committee that continues to kind of develop some things. Of course, many of you are aware we had a SAFER grant in 2019, and we're also a participant in the Make Me a Firefighter campaign, which does a lot of online marketing through the National Volunteer Fire Council. Looking at the, moving on from that, kind of some things that are under consideration. And none of these are things that are necessarily have been decided to move forward on, but there's talk at different levels, whether at committee levels, whether it's at the board level for recruitment. We are currently working with High Obviously, they are the biggest employer and biggest landowner in our first due, trying to come up with some policies, possibly incentives for some of their tenants. That is still ongoing talks with them. We are targeting for this year to post some specific descriptions for positions we need within the company and job descriptions put out there. And the volunteer fire service say we need help. Okay. Well, what does that mean? You know, part of our goal for this year is going to be exactly pointed help. This is the type of position we need. Say it be a treasurer, say it be whatever that means. Also looking at a finder's fee program potentially for recruiting new members. We're going to increase our contacts, Lancaster Mennonite School, CV School District, HAC. Those are some areas we feel we can tap into a little bit more on the recruitment side. Also looking at the possibility of any kind of regional grants and any kind of regional advertising. And also looking to create some just additional recruitment material this year. When we look at retention, so these are the things, again, that are in progress right now. We do an annual banquet with awards, meals at our meetings. We actually have a platoon and mentoring program that was just introduced. That's been a great asset to us. We now have a new member liaison, a newly created position. That person is basically designed to help integrate someone coming in the door who knows nothing to the fire company and kind of be their contact, be their resource. Then once they're in the door, we assign them to a platoon where they can then further develop their knowledge, develop their training, and we get them the skills they need to be a productive member. Again, we're looking at regular meetings, yearly survey for our members. One of the things we're trying to do is fit our members to the role. You know, where do they want to volunteer? We may have some hidden talent in our organization we're not aware of. So that's one of the things we're looking at here for the next year with that. What are we doing as far as other things that are under consideration? Certainly, we've had discussions about call incentives. There's mixed feelings on that. And certainly, if you look at those things from a national level and research on that, you know, you get mixed opinions there. We're looking at rent rebates, again, working with some of our high and some of our other landlords there to see if that's a possibility. Looking for some more member recognition things, some one-on-one meetings with members each year, just to, again, kind of figure out where they want to go. How can we help them? How can they help us? And then there's also been talk and there's some exploration. A couple of other departments within the county have hired paid administrators or paid, you know, positions for fundraising, whether that was on a contract basis or whatever that might be, because ultimately we are tapped out on the administrative side as well as the operational side. Some programs we've tried with limited but no success in the past: signage, billboards, pizza box advertising, generic social media ads and radios. We've actually tried partnering with a lot of the churches. I don't want to say that's not been a success. It's not necessarily resulted in members, but it's resulted in some occasional, call it ad hoc help, like cleaning apparatus or certain events and things like that they've assisted with. So there, I wouldn't say it's unsuccessful, but it's not directly resulted in necessarily bringing in any significant amount of new members. Moving on to Jim's question number 3, do you expect we can resolve this problem on our own? You know, we are certainly committed to our plans to improve staffing. Certainly discussions we have all the time, also being realistic with ourselves at the same time. And we understand the critical importance to ensure, you know, that the service down the road, that we can get the trucks out the door. I mean, that's the number one thing here. We can talk about fundraising, we can talk about community, we can talk about all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, the mission is to get the trucks out the door. So we would anticipate in some fashion, and I think we're very flexible as to what that looks like, and certainly some assistance in the manpower side of things. Jim's question number 4, is there an expectation the township should resolve the problem? Specifically, what are you asking them to do? I think at the end of the day, when we look at this, you know, we are looking for the township to take an active role in their fire services, probably more in this township than what we have before. Don't know exactly what that looks like or entails. But one of the things we struggle with is at what point are we failing our duty to get out the door? There is no benchmark in this township that says what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. How many firefighters should we have on the rig? What are those qualifications? So at the end of the day, when I sat down and I tried to create a 10-year plan for our company, I have no barometer to say what's successful, what's not. And we can argue, well, you're successful now, you get out the door. Is it? I don't know. That's a good question that I think we struggle with to figure out what is that level? Where is that point where we need to start looking at other options? Something else I think we would appreciate is just the amount of people we engage and talk to on a regular basis. We did 29 community relations events in this last year. And of those 29, we get out there a lot. And for some reason, as much as we say it from the rooftops, there's still a lot of businesses, a lot of people that forget or don't know that the township is fully volunteer when it comes to their fire service currently. So again, continuing to push that education to the public, I think from a township level, township perspective will be helpful as well. Whether that's through the township newsletter, whether that's through whatever other means, the vehicles that the township has, I think that's something we would love to see looked at. Furthermore, maybe we look at some recruitment and retention township wide. We're all here talking about the same problem. How can we pool our resources, better use our manpower than having us each 4 companies go out there on our own trying to recruit or reinvent the wheel with that. And ultimately, I think when we start looking at this township, we look at the growth in this township, we look at the situation this township's in, we look at the 4 fire companies. I'm not necessarily about keeping up with the Joneses, but when we start to look around and we look at Manheim Township, we look at East Hempfield, we look at Warwick Emergency Services and some of these other organizations, we are not far behind them. And these are all organizations that have seen a need, have seen some issues within their volunteer fire services, and have explored paid positions. It's not a route any of us want to go down. I know Dave's sitting here and it's the last thing we want to do, but there's also a point, again, where is that linchpin that we need to be realistic with ourselves of, we're not meeting what's expected. So I think that's some guidance that we would be looking for in this whole scheme of things. And it may result, and I think that's ultimately what's going to depend on a lot of things. If we set the benchmark at one spot and we're not meeting it, then we need to formulate a plan to meet it. But right now, I don't know what we're moving towards. We can use NFPA. I'm not a huge fan of NFPA, but we can use that. But what is that mark? Lastly, we have had a number of good successes that I know Dave and myself are very proud of, and as our members and our board. Every year, it seems like we manage to reel in 1 or 2 or 3 people from Stevens Tech. And those guys, while they're not around permanently, a lot of them come to us serving in other departments with training already. This year, we have 2 of those individuals that just joined up here in the last couple months. So we get them for anywhere from 2 to 4 years, depending on what they're there for. And those have been a great asset to us. We actually have one now that's moved back into the area and become a permanent full-time guy and is certainly contributing. So that's been a program we continue to really push to recruit new members. Also working with some things with School District of Lancaster. We've had some good success there and have brought in 3 different people from there as well. Of course, our live-in program has actually helped to supplement some staffing, at least at nighttime. We're still in need of 2 daytime people. But I can tell you at nighttime, our staffing has improved slightly, and we are getting 2 rigs out the door more often than what we were at night. So that's been a positive, along with our duty crew program. We have 17 individuals in that program. And to be honest with you, a lot of those individuals come to us. Same reason I came to Lafayette in 2003, and that's because I wanted to run calls. I didn't live in East Lampeter, but I came here because I wanted to run calls. I wanted to get experience. I wanted to see the diversity of the area. And so that program has really took off, and that's where we get a lot of individuals that way as well. Hasn't benefited us daytime yet, but it has weekends and some weekends. And then we have a new push for junior firefighters. We actually have 7 of those in our program now. So those are guys that, will come up through the ranks, certainly be able to contribute. Most of them usually do stick with it. And we'll see where they go. We do lose some over time, either because they're not interested or they move out of the area, what have you. And that happens. Continue to look at our community engagement. Again, we had a bunch of different events this past year. We're trying to get our biggest bang for our buck, when we're out and about, trying to work on recruitment and just even public awareness. And then lastly, we have had a lot of great personal development for individuals, both as firefighters, but also as citizens, through a variety of different efforts by a lot of different people. And I think, part of that experience they've been able to gain here in East Lampeter, unfortunately, we get to a point where we lose it. And I say that because right now there's 2 Lancaster City Battalion chiefs that are former members of our department, and we've had approximately 10 other paid guys elsewhere. So it's kind of hard when they are able to get that experience. They have a good time. We train them. They're here for 5 or 10 years, and they go on to explore that profession. Some of them still come back and volunteer. We do have right now 3 active paid people within our department that volunteer as well. So that's also been an asset to us. But just with some of the development we have there. Again, trying to, we also right-sized our organization this year. We went from 17 board members down to 9 to try and minimize that double duty. And we're continuing to look at those efficiencies. Of course, a number of years ago, as Dave can attest to, we went from basically, I think it was 9 line officers or so down to 6. So again, just trying to right-size the organization so that we're not overtaxing our people. And continuing to develop that, go get them kind of culture that's out there. We're aggressive and we're here to deliver, the service that the citizens expect from us. And it's our goal at the end of the day. While still, just like Paul had alluded to, certainly the community plays a very key role in that. And we have done a lot in the last 3 years, especially to try and engage our community as much as possible. But certainly our community as a whole is very different as it is Runks, as is Whitmer. And so we continue to try and match ourselves to that to try and get to them in some fashion. So Dave, do you have anything to add to that?
Just the list of public events that we attended this year. Was it 98?
I have to look at the
89 or 98? Not from lack of getting out into the community.
Thank you, Jason.
I'll start this off by saying, I went back through my notes. I've been on this committee since we started this thing. And back in 2006, 2007, we did the exact same thing. We sent a survey out to all the fire companies. Each fireman filled out a paper of what was expected, the good, the bad, things they liked, things they didn't like. I went back through, and a lot of this same stuff is what we're talking about again. So this hasn't changed any. It's maybe 15 years later, but it's still a lot of the same stuff going over and over. The HR concerns we have, people, of course, and I look at it daytime, nighttime. We have some businesses daytime that supply us with people. I don't have as many anymore. I don't have the businesses available to me in our little town that used to be there. And the thing we look at too is where we used to get 5 people out of a shop or 6 people, we might get 2. So that's definitely changed. We get people, but we don't get the same quantity of people. The things that we have been trying to do, and we started off with our training differently. We have new people that have just come on, and I'm going to say we have 5 good ones that have just come into our company, and they're young guys, and we have one specific night we deal with those guys as far as training. We mentorship. When we can, we put somebody with an older person, seasoned person, whatever you want to call it, and that seems to work. They've been showing up. The toughest thing with that right now is the classes that are out there. They have changed so much at the training center. It's tough to get a straight answer on as far as what they can and can't do when the class has changed. So in a way it affects us, but we do a lot of in-station. Do they get the same training as they would if they went out? Not necessarily, but at least we're not going backwards with that. Something that we're doing to help is we have a leadership training class. And that is another separate night completely. And that is more for our senior people. They don't necessarily want to come and crawl around on the floor and do mazes or things like that. So if we can get them talking about the leadership stuff we get into, and that's, take them out and size ups and this and that, of buildings. If this was on fire, what would you do? Things like that. And it gets them thinking, but they're using the knowledge that they had previously and are able to use that and, maybe help out daytime, and nighttime to help the younger crew out of what they're looking for and what they should be doing. So breaking the classes up a little bit, the training classes, definitely, I believe, helps us. What we're trying to do also is we still have probably about 8 to 10 guys that are the senior guys that don't show up as much, whether, now they've got kids, they're babysitting, they can't always get out. We're trying to have these leadership classes to get them back involved into the fire company things. We did pick up another driver daytime with that. So that definitely is a big help. To sit here and have specifics, you have to look at every individual that we have and how can we use their abilities and their knowledge to come back and help us in the final, in the end to help, the whole company. So, have to have one specific thing, it's tough, but to have, to use what they have, everyone brings something to the table and you have to look at it that way. Some things we're trying to do too, whether you're a new person, you've been there a long time, you're on a committee, that we want the people to understand how the fire company works, what's expected. That, some people care less about insurances, things like that. It's all part of understanding what the fire company is. So we're trying to get an equal number of seasoned and an equal number of younger people involved in these committees, that they've got to learn somewhere. And, it's a hand-in-hand thing. But, you've got to educate them and bring them up to speed on, why did we do this or why do we do that? And I think if they understand, the involvement is much better and they can talk amongst themselves with that. The area that we see right now that we can get people is we have 4 schools real close to our fire company, and they're all Amish schools. We don't have public schools down our way, but we go and visit those schools, talk fire prevention, take the fire trucks out. It gets these kids interested. They don't forget this stuff. And maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but maybe 2 or 3 years, maybe 4, they become involved. The thing that we have going for us right now is we have a lot of families in our fire company that have brothers, some fathers that are there that, brought their kids in. We have some that, and we allow this, that when we have trainings and we have our fire company meetings, that we encourage the fathers to bring their kids to the meetings. And you think this won't work? It does work. They sit there, they listen, they have food with us. Again, they're well mannered. We don't run a babysitting service, but they do a nice job sitting there and absorbing all this. And hopefully down the road that this, becomes a thing that, we'll have them in the future. A lot of it, they're not participating in things. They're not doing anything that they're going to get hurt. They sit back, they watch, but they don't miss a trick. So its involvement, total family involvement. I think, and Jason talked about this a little bit too, is we have a lot of rental properties along Route 30 and even in Runks anymore. We don't have the people that live there on a full-time basis. We have houses that used to be a single house. Now they're 4 apartments. And I've talked about this numerous times. It is tough to get people involved when they're not going to be there that long. We have had success in the last couple of months that somebody moved in. We went, we visited them, and they got involved. And right now, we have 2 that, you know, they show up all the time, middle of the night, nothing phases them. So, you know, sometimes you have to go out and knock on some doors. Our businesses, again, we don't have a whole lot that's locally owned. We have a lot, you know, you have up along the highway, you have restaurants that are franchises that, you know, you get nothing out of that. The one thing we do get out of it with them though, is I think going out and being able to talk to them, that if they do have a problem, they have problems with, you know, their alarm systems, you know, we try to work with them. We have a couple that are tough to work with, and then you have to do something. But we found out we can get better results working with them, showing them why things aren't working. And they get on their property management team and they get things fixed. It saves us calls. And, you know, we don't run as many calls as others, but the people know us. They see us coming, they know our faces, and it's, you know, we're trying to work with them constantly. I'll jump back to the, you know, what are we doing now to help solve some of this? It goes back again to the people. And I've brought this up numerous times at this meeting, that we have purchased some equipment that helps us do our job easier with a lot less people. And our training sessions, lots of times we set up and we work with a 5-man crew. We drop it down to a 4-man crew. We drop it down to a 3-man crew to go out and learn how to do this stuff. And they say it can't be done, and we show them how. Yes, it can be done. It's whether you want to call that a Band-Aid, it's training, and you can get, if you get 3 guys all going in the same direction, you'd be surprised what can happen. You can make things work. The one thing that we do hope that the township can, and I know that, you know, the newsletter, it costs money to send that out, but if we can always get something in there about, you know, the fire companies, it's great. Phone numbers, you know, where to join, things like that. It's appreciated. But, you know, we all have a lot of the same problems that we have, that work with them differently because of the areas that we have, the people that we have. We have to take a good look at those kinds of things. What'll work for one won't necessarily work for all of us. But this is where we're hoping that what we've talked about tonight, you know, can really make things work. I've got guys back here from our recruitment and retention group, and you know, they're taking notes and they wanted to come to this meeting. So that's definitely a plus. And also the one class that Dave brought up about having here, that's coming up, I believe that's in March
7th.
I'm signed up for that. I'm going to be going to it, and hopefully we can bring more information back. So that's pretty much it for us.
Okay, thank you. Whitmer? Okay.
I have, I'm good. You need?
I have one. Did you give them out, did you get a full packet? Yeah, no, wait.
Basically, what we're trying to do is our most pressing issue is the same as everything else. It's human resources for calls, staff, qualified daytime crews. 2021, we managed to pick up a good amount of administrative numbers, but we lacked in being able to recruit firefighters. I think numbers hold right. I think we got 5. And out of those 5, we got 3 full times. The other ones are the ones that come in during the week part time a day or 2 to help out. Some of the things that play into the struggle. 2 working parents in the house, kids playing multiple sports, which don't a lot of time, especially when you're asking to do 150 hours of training. That's basically the other things. Keep saying we want to be volunteer. We're doing this for free. Number 2, describe our specifics. So, 2022, we're retasking our membership committee to be more aggressive than just processing applications. We're looking for them to do more recruitment as well as retention for firefighters and administrative members. We're looking at doing some recruitment and retention grants. We're trying to explore different things. I know with our fundraiser this coming year, we did some reaching out. We do have about 10 or 12 members from our community that's coming to help us out. So that is a big plus. Normally it's just been our guys, the whole time. Number 3, what do you expect the company can resolve this HR problem on our own or with assistance of the township? We wish to solve this issue on our own. It will be very difficult to increase daytime staffing. It has experienced a change in demographics that has impacted staff. Just like everybody else has talked about, you got younger Amish guys, younger guys get involved with girls. They start getting married, move away. We're facing the same thing. Our traditional method of staffing from local businesses for daytime calls don't have. It seems like everybody else is saying the same thing in here tonight. Don't have the employees to use that would be one to get trained or respond to these calls. Businesses are less accept to release employees from work. Those times have changed. I know when I started, my employer allowed me to leave. You find a very, very few of them. We also have less plain community members working on the farms locally and have taken construction jobs, shop jobs that require working out of the area. Less members are working 2nd or 3rd shift jobs that would allow them to be available for weekday calls. Leaves are minimal staffing available and firefighters that are overworked and get burned out much quicker trying to continue to provide a level of service. Whitmer is committed to providing the township residents. Number 4, the expectation of the ESC and our township should help solve this problem. What specifically are you asking them to do? Township ESC should be playing a leadership role in supporting the township fire companies to continue their mission, providing 100% volunteer fire service to our township. Number 5, specific success you experienced recurrent 2021 public relation committees that was formed played a role in allowing us to get out and engage with the community and have conversations about our needs and continuing to strive to provide that 100% volunteer service. This past year I think we did 3 community events where we've gotten out into like block parties. There's something new for us. It's benefiting us. We've got 10 to 12 people coming to help with our auctions. We're looking to do about the same this coming year. some of those people from that development that's coming out to help us, they're coming up with ideas on how to challenge the other developments in our area. You know, so there's some definite positive things going on, but a lot of it comes back to like what we just talked about, training and stuff like that. Very few people that want to commit because kids' sports or other family commitments. It's not like it was back in the day. So that's pretty much all we have. I know it was a little short. I've been here a little bit long. So
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. I appreciate what the effort that you all put in. Steve, to your comment about I think it was 5, 6, and 7 that we went through this. I don't ever remember that we had any kind of formal document that came out of that other than.
I'll bring it along next time.
Do you have that
Yes, I
document? Okay, good. It would be nice to revisit that document, I think, and see how far we haven't come, I guess. But that's the point, I think, of what I was hoping to accomplish here tonight is to look at our status. Where are we? And so I'm believing that we really need to now take a serious look at how to focus. As I said before, it's not a short-term effort. It's not going to be a short-term effort. And it might mean that we want to do some small working group discussions to try to bring things better in focus and put a roadmap together that makes sense, that doesn't overburden us, but that makes sense. From my perspective, pretty much heard a lot of the same things here, but I think that what we need in fairness to do is to really get our arms around what was said. There are some people that have some programs that are really sound like they're working. And we probably need to dig into those programs and see what it is that we can develop to help those that don't have a solid program yet. So I would propose, and I would like to ask Eric if at some point you and I can get together in the next week or two and kind of consolidate all the remarks that we've heard tonight and try to focus things a little bit. And then we'll get an email out to the committee that you can look at and say, all right, yeah, you're going the right direction or you're not. But we may try to pick some specific areas that stand out in these presentations and ask people to respond to those at the next meeting, all in an effort to focus this, to try to get things moving step by step in a positive direction. Okay. I would like to open up to some questions. I think what we normally do, but that's okay. I think it's important that we take this serious. So if there are any questions at this time of any of the presenters.
You have a couple of questions.
Okay, we have some questions. Okay.
Mr. Thornton asked if there's any state or federal programs designed to incentivize volunteer fire company memberships, educational loans, tax credits.
Well, yes, there are, but they in the past there have been, right?
No, it never got off the ground.
There's
There
stuff-
was
there's
a
stuff
lot
is-
of logistics
Yeah.
behind that,
Yeah.
such as I live in West Lampeter Township. I volunteer in East Lampeter Township. So if the incentive were to be sanctioned by East Lampeter Township, how would I benefit living in West Lampeter Township. So those were never resolved. There is another one that's underway currently, which is looking at the school district tax base. I think they had implemented a program in the Pittsburgh area. They are taking a look at that in Lancaster County to see how that would affect. Basically, it would garnish a portion of the school district taxes to be reimbursed to people who volunteer as firefighters. So basically, you would get a discount on your school tax. We're talking a small discount though, maybe $100. My school taxes run around $3,400. So yeah, they're taking a look at that in Lancaster County. I mean, anything helps.
And I think the other thing you run into, I know some of the issues I've seen with it, or some of the questions is, so right there you go, okay, what about the person that's renting and volunteering? They don't get, they're not paying school
That's right.
taxes.
Get the
their
same
landlord,
benefit, right,
So you go with
right.
that. Another one is, okay, what's the criteria then for qualifying for, when are you technically a firefighter, and what are the record keeping, the documentation that you need to do? So I know when I've heard of discussions about it, it's always like, be a little careful what you wish for, because it could be, I'm not sure that it's I haven't heard a really good plan yet that would address our concerns. I don't think, but I'm not saying it can't be done, but yeah, a lot more questions than answers.
Steve did mention briefly, and I was going to mention it at the end here too. Dave sent out this information. There's a strategic planning for fire service operations by the Pennsylvania Fire Emergency Services Institute. And it's being held in 7 March at the Emergency Management Center.
Lancaster County Public Trading Center.
Yep. There's a daytime and a evening course, I guess you want to call it. I'm going to the daytime course. Steve, you said you're going as well, I think. So it's open to fire company members, township supervisors, board council mayors, and I'm not sure what there's a list of the itinerary here, what they expect to teach or address. I'm not sure if there's anything good that'll come out of that, but there's a possibility that there might be.
That whole thing's across the state of Pennsylvania, or Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So I'm sure some of the things won't necessarily affect us as much as others, but I figured it was a free seminar, and if you can go pick up something out of it, why it's
absolutely.
I did bring along a few pamphlets here in case anybody would like to attend. You feel free to take one with you. There's you who are on the YouTube. If you want to email me, or I can email the group the same information.
Okay. Thanks, Dave. All right. Were there any other questions?
There is, Mr. Thornton asked, do volunteer fire departments have recommended recruiting initiatives that have been successful?
Well, let's ask, let's go around the room and ask. Burnham?
Well, like I said, we have a program that we're working on, still developing, but yeah, I mean, we feel like it's been successful for us. I don't know how broadly it can apply to other companies. Like we've all talked about, we all have different situations, but we do feel like what we're doing is working. We're still early in the process of it, but I would say yes. I feel like it is working.
Lafayette?
For Lafayette, I mean, we perform a lot of community outreach attempts, and our message, we get our message out in our fund drive letter. We get our message out in our holiday letter. We get our message out on our signboard out front. When we're in the community, I mentioned earlier, the 89 or the 98 public events, we're always trying to recruit during those times. And, I feel like we get our message out, but we're just not successful.
Steve? Ross?
I agree with Dave. We go out and we talk with people, and you talk to individuals, and we have some people here in our fire company that work with maybe 10, 15 other people where they work at, and they bring up, hey, would you join? Would you this or that? And everyone always comes back with the answer, I'm busy, I don't have time. We're all busy. And I wish there was a way to have a good answer for being busy. Those of us who are busy seem to be getting busier. So again, for us in our area, we do put stuff in our fund drive letter as far as what we're looking for. It gets people talking, but you still got to get them in the door. And I think that what's toughest down our way is for recruitment, you have to grow up in this to appreciate it, to get the itch to come in and I think be a fireman. It's kind of like sports, you know. Everyone used to play football, and now there's injuries, and so now we go and we play soccer, and we have track, and we have this and that. There's so many other options out there that people get into that you know, you're out there knocking on doors, but sometimes just you don't get a whole lot of answer.
Okay. Greg Whitmer.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's same as everybody, Ronks and Lafayette. I mean, programs that we're out doing out with the community and stuff like that. I mean, we're getting some interest and people are talking, but we might get maybe a handful that have come in. Like I said, our administrative side have grown big time this year, but we've only gotten a few that were willing to commit for the firefighting. Same thing. We're busy, like I've said, different sports with the kids, different, both parents working, there are some things that we're looking at trying to do this year to kind of add and hopefully get a little bit more, but it's the same old story,
Thanks. Mike, did that answer your questions?
Yeah, it did. And I'm sorry, I put that in early. I think when you mentioned the training that was coming up, it might be a larger scope. Obviously, all of our departments are really working on this, and I really appreciate everybody's efforts on it. I do think, it's so easy to take for granted all the fire departments, volunteer fire departments and what they do. I kind of was referring to maybe more national associations or some other, I've seen the National Volunteer Fire Council, there's a Fire Chiefs Association. Not that you guys haven't already covered that. I just had it as a quick idea. I just wanted to put it out that whether, were they coming up with recruitment strategies that were working? Are they sharing that with members and things like that? You don't have to answer that now. I'm sure you're looking at it. I just put it out as a general idea to make sure you've exhausted every idea. I'm sure you have. I just put it out there.
I can answer that for you, Mike. Both Jason and I'm not sure about anyone else in this room. We're both members of the National Volunteer Fire Council. And we get an email every morning, and it's kind of a blog where it addresses the hot topics of the day or the week. And there's always something in there about recruitment and retention. And as I shared with John Blowers, there has not been identified a silver bullet. There is no easy, quick answer. But it's not going to be solved at the national level. You have to solve it at the local level. As we see here in this very room, we have successes with bird in hand, 600 plus members.
Fundraising.
Well, fundraising members, but you are very healthy, I will say, compared to Lafayette, where we really struggle during the daytime. It's just a different demographics, it's different.
Understood. Thanks.
Are there any other questions at this time? Are there any objections to my approach here? Let Eric and me try to filter everything and try to come up with a step-by-step roadmap, so to speak, of what we've learned from all of the fire companies and focus things a little bit more. Any other
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I've heard a couple of key points here this evening that came from all four companies. Daytime is the worst staffing. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. All right, at this time, I would like to ask if there are any public comments. Okay, if not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Second, Paul. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so moved. Thank you. Next meeting is March 17th. Yes. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.